The gaming industry is in a state of flux, and this has everyone changing up the way they do business. The question now is, should PlayStation go the extra mile? Well, let's break that all down. Up next. What's going on, guys? It's Kalo, and I'm here to give you the lowdown on all things gaming. And if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content. Drop a like on the video, and welcome to the Level Up. Also, before we get into today's news, we are at 950 subscribers at the time of this recording, so we're nearly there. We're 50 subscribers away. Thank you to each and every one of you guys that do subscribe to this channel. It really does mean the world to me. When we hit 1,000, I don't know, we might do something special. Haven't really thought that far. More worried about today's news, so let's get into it. So I think it's safe to say we are in a period in gaming which we're seeing moves left and right that we never truly thought would pan out. Acquisitions, studio closures, you name it, it's being done in gaming right now. And I think we reached a point in time where pretty much anything is on the table. And that's all within reason. Now, I'm not out here to churn this pot as far as wild and plain outrageous things go, but I came across some interesting words from Sean Layton, who is the former head of PlayStation, that really made me think about what's truly going on here. And by that, I'm alluding to this idea, could PlayStation really consider following what Xbox has currently been doing and porting over some of their big-time titles to rival platforms? Man, oh man, what could go wrong here? Now, bear with me because I know some people have either turned off this video or are currently typing furiously in the comments section. But before we do all that, let's hear what Sean Layton has to say here, then we can draw assumptions. Also, keep in mind for some context here as well, this interview was conducted by Eurogamer, where he himself was asked about Xbox ports of PlayStation titles. Quote, "I don't know what the business imperative would be to do that. PlayStation has been the leader for almost every generation it's been in. You talk about the Xbox 360 being a huge competitor with the PS3, and for a while, they got out the gate sooner. They grew a large market, but in the end, PlayStation fought to tie in America and the UK. With Xbox 360, we look at a global footprint and PlayStation is far and away the global leader, because it's the leading platform in 170 countries around the world. Microsoft never had that kind of global reach, so they could never build a global market to the scale that PlayStation does." He continued, "So the question you're asking is, should PlayStation, with that huge market lead and momentum, apparently going forward, should they build versions of their games to run on competing platform of a smaller size and scale? As the saying goes, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze." Now, following all that, he was asked about a title like LEGO Horizons, and this is what he had to say on that matter. Quote, "Historically, PlayStation and Nintendo platforms have lived happily side by side in living rooms across the world. It's almost a natural pairing." Now, unlike the first quote where he pretty much outright dismissed it, I think what he's trying to say as far as Nintendo goes, they view that rivalry with Nintendo in a different light, especially when compared to Xbox. More often than not, when someone owns a PlayStation console, they may own a Nintendo console as well. That's because while they're still rivals, they offer up two very different products, and especially consoles compared to what Sony's currently doing right now. As we know, Nintendo is gonna play Nintendo, and they exist within their own little world and developed a platform that has their specific fans. But Xbox and PlayStation, on the other hand, at the end of the day are fighting over the same audience share or like-minded gamers. Now, I see this as a net positive because I always say competition within the space is only gonna benefit the consumer. This forces companies to really be on their A game and make good products. But in Sony's mind, PlayStation takes Xbox as a very serious threat, mainly because they've seen the seismic shift that did occur from the PlayStation 2 to the PS3 era, and that's all with the emergence of the Xbox 360 and how well that console was actually received, especially when it's done right. So, in closing, if PlayStation suddenly chose to open up the floodgates, fans may view that as a massive heel turn, and that's all to use some wrestling lingo. The thing is, yes, there are tons of positives in a multi-platform approach, and we're currently seeing that with Xbox. But with every good comes an evil or two, like considering how much money is tied into their console business, especially when talking about subscriptions and fees they can get from third-party games that release solely on their consoles. And that's why I always pretty much say Xbox won't flat out abandon the console business. That's because there's too much money tied up there just to pull the plug on it. But at the same time, I think Xbox and PlayStation are at two very different ends of the spectrum, and that's as far as where they lie within the gaming world. And quite honestly, I think that's what Sean Layton's trying to say here. PlayStation is very much ahead as far as console sales go, and that leaves them plenty of leeway to go that exclusive route. But I do think if I was to look in my little crystal ball and give a bold prediction for the future, I think before we get the eventual PlayStation 6 or whatever they're gonna call it, we will see a sizable move as far as PlayStation exclusivity goes. And we're already kind of seeing this in small drips already, especially with their push into the PC market and games like LEGO Horizons. I think we will see an uptick in PC ports for PlayStation titles, and that could even go as far as releasing day and date with the PC and the PlayStation console, aka day one. Cloud streaming too may be the route they explore since that's recently opened up with the Portal. And if that service expands further to Android and iOS devices, more subscriptions can be sold to people not entirely on a PlayStation 5 console. But with all that being said, I'm gonna pass this one off to you guys. What do you think about all this? Do we ever see titles like God of War or Spider-Man on an Xbox console? Let me know in the comments down below. But that about does it here. I've been K-Lo, I gave you the lowdown on all things gaming, and if you're new here, feel free to subscribe to this channel for weekly video game news content, drop a like on the video, and this has been the Level Up.